My name is Kimberly. I'm 31 years old, and this is the story of how I was told to cancel my own wedding for my sister, and how I chose, finally, to stop making myself smaller so others could shine. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, just after I'd finalized the flower arrangements. I remember it clearly because I was still holding a swatch of navy satin ribbon in one hand when my phone buzzed. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I expected a compliment. Maybe a question about my bouquet or a sweet "I can't believe my baby is getting married." But instead, I got this. "Kim, we need to talk. I really think you should reconsider the wedding in March." At first, I thought I misheard her. I laughed softly and said, "Reconsider what?" She sighed. The kind of sigh she reserved for disappointment, one I'd heard too many times as a child. "Brooklyn's going through a lot right now. She's barely sleeping. She just finalized her divorce, and seeing you go through this, it's a bit cruel, don't you think?" I felt the words like ice cracking beneath my feet. I took a long pause before answering. "So, you're saying I should cancel my wedding?" "Not cancel," she said carefully, "just tone it down. Maybe do something smaller. Intimate. Family only. You don't need a big venue and a band. It's about love, not spectacle." My throat clenched. I had spent nearly a year planning this wedding with my fiancé, Marcus. Every detail, every choice, had been made with care. And now, my mother was asking me to erase it all. Not because of money. Not because of illness. But because my younger sister, Brooklyn, was heartbroken. Brooklyn, who had always needed the spotlight. Brooklyn, who had been married barely 8 weeks before Zane, the man she rushed into a relationship with, ran off with her best friend. And now, somehow, my joy was hurting her. I said nothing. Because I'd been trained to make space for Brooklyn since we were kids. She was always the one who cried louder, needed more. When I got an A, she got a cake for getting a C. When I had college applications spread across the kitchen table, my mother moved them so Brooklyn could paint her nails. It had always been like this. And now, even my wedding, my one sacred day, was expected to shrink to fit my sister's ego. After I hung up, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the ribbon still in my hand. Marcus came home half an hour later, and the moment I told him, his jaw tightened. He didn't shout. He didn't curse. He just pulled me close and said, "This wedding is about us. Not anyone else." I nodded, but something in me broke that day. Not just because of the request, but because of how unsurprised I was. What followed next was a silent storm. Brooklyn began her campaign quietly, vague Instagram stories about some people needing all the attention. Facebook quotes about betrayal and family pain. At first, I ignored it. Then came the texts. "Hope your wedding planning is going great while some of us can't even sleep through the night." Then, a few days later, "You've always been the golden child. I just wish you'd consider how it feels to watch you live out my dream." My hands shook as I passed the phone to Marcus. He read the messages with a blank face, then handed it back. "She's making you the villain in her tragedy," he said. "But you don't have to play along." I tried to stay above it. I really did. I told myself she was grieving, lashing out. But it didn't stop. It only escalated. Then came the call that snapped me. Marcus had just gotten home from work. We were making pasta, dancing around our kitchen like teenagers, when his phone rang. He answered. I watched his face shift from warmth to a tight, unreadable stare. When he hung up, he didn't speak right away. "Who was that?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "Your mom," he said. "She called to say I should talk to you about scaling the wedding down. That a real man doesn't need all the bells and whistles. That, if I loved you, I'd help you put family first." I stood still, the wooden spoon in my hand dripping sauce onto the floor. My mother had gone behind my back. Had tried to manipulate my fiancé into doing her bidding. like I was some rebellious child needing control. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just nodded. Okay, I said. If that's how she wants to play it, I'll show her just how grown I've become. But I wasn't ready yet. Not to fight. Not to cut ties. I still hoped it would blow over. That Brooklyn would find peace, or that my mom would come to her senses. But the next blow came during Christmas. We drove to my Aunt Clarice's home in Augusta, thinking maybe the holiday spirit would ease tensions. Marcus and I arrived early, bearing wine and cookies. We were met with cold half-hugs and tight smiles. Brooklyn wouldn't meet my eyes. My mom pretended everything was normal. Dinner was halfway through when I mentioned lemon mousse for the wedding cake. Brooklyn slammed her fork down. You know what, Kim? Some of us are just trying to survive. But you stand there talking about mousse like you're on the red carpet. The room fell silent. My cousins looked away. Someone stopped chewing. I was just answering a question, I said, quietly. You've taken everything from me. The attention. The love. Now even my right to grieve. Every time you smile, it feels like a slap. My mom stood up, wrapping Brooklyn in a hug. She's not okay, Kim. Can't you be a little more sensitive? That's when I stood too. I looked at both of them, my mother, clinging to the drama queen she'd raised, and Brooklyn, sobbing like a character on a soap opera. I've been quiet for too long, I said. You're hurting? Then hurt with dignity. Don't hijack my joy because you made bad choices. You picked a man you barely knew. You rushed into a wedding and blasted it all over social media like a fairy tale. And now that it's over, you want to destroy mine. I won't let you. Then I turned to my mother. My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. And you. You've enabled this her whole life. You didn't raise daughters. You raised a hierarchy. And I'm done playing the lower tier. A silence heavier than snowfall followed. No one moved. No one blinked. I'm rescinding your invitations, I said. You're no longer welcome at my wedding. My mom gasped. Brooklyn sobbed louder. And I walked out, hand in hand with Marcus, into the bitter cold night. It wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. When we got back to our apartment after that Christmas dinner, I didn't say much. I peeled off my coat, placed the wine we'd brought in the kitchen, and sat down in silence. Marcus didn't press me. He just made tea and placed it next to me on the couch. I stared into the steam curling up from the mug and said softly, I think that was the last straw. The next morning, I wrote an email. It was short and to the point. The subject line read, Wedding Update. Hi Mom. Hi Brooklyn. Based on everything that has happened and how the two of you have behaved throughout this process, I regret to inform you that you will not be on the guest list for my wedding. This is not a reaction. This is a boundary. I wish you peace. Kimberly. I hit send. No tears. No second guessing. I didn't even flinch. For the first time, I was choosing myself. Less than 12 hours later, my inbox pinged. The subject line from my mom read, You're tearing this family apart. It was long, emotional, and full of guilt-laced jabs. She wrote, I raised you with love, and this is how you repay me? Brooklyn is struggling. How can you be so cold? Over a simple misunderstanding? No mention of her call to Marcus. No apology for sabotaging my engagement. Just page after page about Brooklyn's tears, her suffering, her sleepless nights. Then Brooklyn chimed in, just 3 angry lines. You're petty. You used your wedding to exclude me and humiliate me one final time. Enjoy your little victory. Family never forgets betrayal. I stared at the screen. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just sat there thinking how surreal it was to be blamed for choosing peace. Then the ripple began. People started reaching out, relatives I hadn't spoken to in months, suddenly filled with opinions. My Uncle John called with a sharp voice, "Couldn't you have handled this more gently? She's your mother. You've made her cry." A cousin messaged me out of nowhere, "I heard you uninvited your mom?" No matter what she did, she's still family. My mom's old coworker even left a comment on my wedding photo, "Hope everyone heals before someone throws salt on the wound." Salt? These people hadn't seen a single tear I cried, the nights I questioned if I was being selfish, the weight of choosing between myself and the illusion of family unity. No one asked how I felt. Only how hurt Brooklyn must be. But not everyone stayed silent. Later that day, I got a call from my dad's younger sister, Aunt Valerie. Her voice was calm, steady, and deeply familiar. She said, "You finally did the right thing, Kimberly. I've seen it for years. The way your mom coddles Brooklyn, the way you're expected to make room for her no matter what. I'm proud of you." I felt tears sting my eyes, not from pain, but from validation. Megan, my cousin and oldest friend, texted next. "I've watched Brooklyn play the victim for years. Maybe now people will finally see it." I was still stunned at how support began to pour in from places I never expected. A retired teacher from my childhood, who'd followed my life quietly from afar, messaged, "You always had grace under pressure. I'm glad you're standing up for yourself now." A great-aunt from out of state mailed me a handwritten card that read, "Real family doesn't ask you to sacrifice your happiness. They celebrate it with you." The more kindness I received, the more certain I became that I'd done the right thing. Still, Brooklyn wasn't finished. A week later, while Marcus and I were reviewing our wedding vendor checklist, I stepped out to make tea. When I came back, Marcus was sitting stiffly on the couch, his phone in his lap, brows furrowed. "What is it?" I asked. He looked up slowly. "Brooklyn texted me." I froze. "What?" He handed me the phone. A string of messages was open, texts from Brooklyn sent late at night, early in the morning, all of them subtle yet invasive. I know I probably shouldn't text, but I don't know who else to talk to. I feel like the whole family has turned against me. You're the only one who seems to care. Have you ever wondered if things had gone differently, maybe you and I could have been something? I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. It wasn't enough that she'd tried to ruin my wedding. Now, she was trying to insert herself into my relationship. Adam held up his hand. I didn't respond. Not once. I figured you needed to see it. I took the phone, scrolled through the messages again, and said nothing. This wasn't about jealousy anymore. This was calculated. I opened my laptop. I created another email, this time addressed to the small group of family members who had supported me from the start. Aunt Valerie, Megan, and a few others. The subject line was, "I need to clarify something." The body of the email read, "I've tried to remain silent to avoid stirring more conflict, but this has gone too far." Attached are screenshots from Marcus's phone, messages Brooklyn has sent him recently. I'm not sharing this for drama. I'm sharing this so you understand why I've had to make the choices I've made. This is no longer about wedding plans. It's about manipulation, boundary violations, and protecting my peace. I hit send. Within 30 minutes, Megan called me. "Kimberly, this is insane. I can't believe she's been texting Marcus like that. Does she think no one sees through her?" Aunt Valerie replied by email, one sentence only, "You've handled this with more grace than I ever could. I support you." Another cousin, one who had stayed neutral until now, sent a message, "I had no idea Brooklyn was this calculated. Now I do." And then, of course, my mom. A missed call. Followed by a text. "You've gone too far. No matter what Brooklyn did, exposing her to the family like this is cruel. She's hurting. No mention of the messages. No concern for the breach of trust. Just a mother defending her favorite daughter again, no matter how deep the damage ran. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I had finally stopped trying to prove my worth. My wedding wasn't just going to be a celebration of love anymore. It was going to be the line in the sand. The days leading up to the wedding passed in a haze, an uneasy stillness, like the quiet before a storm. I had blocked Brooklyn on every platform. I had muted my mother's number. And yet, the tension in my chest wouldn't ease. I had braced for retaliation, but part of me hoped they would take the hint and finally let me be. They didn't. One chilly morning in February, just a month before the wedding, I got a call from the venue manager. "Hi, Kimberly. We just wanted to confirm, there was an attempt to log into your event reservation online. 3 incorrect password attempts were made. Normally, we wouldn't flag it, but since your file is locked to authorized users only." I froze. "Do you know who it was?" There was a pause on the line. "We can't give out IP addresses, but based on the login patterns, it looks like it was someone familiar with your account, someone who had the original invoice details." My stomach dropped. My mother had paid the deposit months ago as a gesture of support. She had insisted, "Let me do this one thing. It's tradition." I hadn't questioned it. I had accepted the gesture because I wanted to believe she meant it. But now, I realized, she still had access. I opened my laptop immediately and changed everything: passwords, access codes, even the security questions. Marcus watched me from across the kitchen, saying nothing, but the tension in his jaw said everything. After I secured all the accounts, I sat at the dining table, staring at our finalized guest list. We had narrowed it down to 60 people, friends and family who genuinely supported us. But it still felt like we were holding our breath, waiting for another shoe to drop. It did. Exactly 3 weeks before the wedding, a cousin who hadn't spoken to me in months messaged me out of the blue. "Hey, just wanted to say I'm so excited for your big day. But FYI, Brooklyn posted a video on her story last night. She was crying, saying you kicked her out of the family and are trying to ruin her life. It's going viral in the family group chat." I didn't even flinch. I opened Instagram on a dummy account and found it instantly. A blurry, dimly lit video of Brooklyn sitting on her couch, mascara running down her face. "I just don't know what I did to deserve this," she sniffled. "I loved my sister. I supported her. And now she's turned everyone against me. She's getting married on the exact weekend Zane and I were supposed to renew our vows. It's like she planned it to crush me. And my mom, she's broken." I watched the whole thing in silence. Every word was a twisted lie, perfectly curated for sympathy. The comments were already filling with hearts and crying emojis. Extended family, old friends, distant relatives, none of whom knew a thing about the months of emotional warfare she'd waged. It wasn't just drama anymore. It was character assassination. Marcus walked in, holding his phone. "I just got a text from one of my groomsmen. He asked if everything was okay, said Brooklyn posted something that looked really bad." That night, I didn't cry. I did something better. I called Amanda, my maid of honor, and told her, "It's time. I want the full story out." But not in rage. In facts. We spent 2 days putting together a private email, a calm, evidence-based timeline of everything that had happened. No dramatics. Just screenshots, quotes, emails, and messages, proof. We sent it to every relative who had commented, messaged, or questioned me. The subject line was, "Before you judge me. Read this." The reaction was immediate. Aunt Sandra, who had previously posted a sad emoji on Brooklyn's video, emailed me personally, "Kimberly, I owe you an apology. I had no idea. I'm ashamed I believed her." Uncle Derek called. Brooklyn always had a way of making herself look like the victim. But this crosses a line. Even some of Brooklyn's old friends, who had watched her meltdown in real time, messaged me privately with apologies, confessing they had seen the manipulation for years but stayed quiet. But the real moment of clarity came from the person I least expected. My mom's older sister, Aunt Marion, a woman I'd barely spoken to in a decade, sent me a voice note. Kimberly. I stayed out of it because I wanted peace. But peace isn't silence in the face of abuse. I saw Brooklyn grow up with everything handed to her. And I saw you grow up apologizing for things you didn't do. I'm proud of you. I listened to that message 5 times. Then I cried, not out of pain, but release. For the first time in my life, people were seeing it. Seeing me. A week later, Amanda called me while I was getting my nails done. You're not going to believe this, she said. Brooklyn and your mom showed up at the venue this morning. I sat up straight. What? They told the manager they just wanted to take a look at the layout. Said they were helping plan a surprise. My blood ran cold. I told him never to let them in again. I put your name down as the only point of contact. And don't worry, I've arranged for security. I felt my breath return. The next day, I got a message from the venue confirming that both my mom and Brooklyn had been added to a do not admit list. I forwarded the email to Marcus and Amanda. This was my wedding. And no one, not even my own mother, was going to hijack it. As the final week approached, everything came together. The floral arrangements were confirmed. The musicians rehearsed our song. The lavender candles I had dreamed of for months arrived from Charleston. The dress fit like a dream. And Marcus, he never once wavered. Every night, he held me close and whispered, "You're doing the right thing." And I knew I was. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming what I had given up for years, my voice, my joy, and my boundaries. Still, I wasn't naive. I knew they wouldn't go quietly. And they didn't. Our wedding day arrived like a quiet miracle, an early March afternoon, kissed by a soft golden sun and the scent of blooming gardenias. I had woken up before dawn, too calm for someone who had spent months walking through fire. The air felt different. Still, but not heavy. Like a page turning. Amanda arrived just after 9 a.m. with fresh bagels and iced coffee, pretending it was a normal day. But when I saw the look on her face, I knew something was up. What? I asked. She hesitated. Promise you won't freak out? My stomach tensed. Tell me. She sighed. Your mom and Brooklyn showed up at the venue. I blinked. Already? They're at the gate. Arguing with security. Your mom's crying. Brooklyn's yelling about being thrown out of the family. It's causing a scene. I stood there, makeup half done, dress still hanging untouched. How many people saw? A few guests overheard. Nothing major yet. I can handle it, just tell me what you want me to do. For a moment, I was silent. Then, I breathed in deeply, calmly, as though exhaling months of bitterness. Get the venue manager. Tell them to keep them at the gate. If they don't leave, call a car service and have them escorted out. No arguments. Amanda didn't hesitate. Got it. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I should have ignored it. But I answered. My mother's voice cracked with fake heartbreak. Are you really going to hold your wedding and toss your mother and sister out like garbage? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. You chose Brooklyn, I said. Even when she crossed lines, harassed Marcus, and tried to sabotage this wedding. You didn't defend me. You didn't ask questions. You just helped her. You'll regret this, she hissed. Marriage isn't just flowers and dresses. One day, you'll need your mother, but I may not be there. I know, I said softly. And I've made peace with that. I ended the call and placed the phone down like closing a door I should have shut years ago. By 3:45 p.m., guests had begun to take their seats. Strings of warm light draped across oak trees, swaying gently in the breeze. The lavender petals lined the aisle like whispers of calm. At exactly 4 p.m., the music started. I stepped out, my heart steady, my veil trailing behind me like a ribbon of resolve. Amanda gave me one last smile and said, "This is yours, Kimberly." Finally. As I walked down the aisle, Marcus stood beneath the floral arch, his eyes fixed on me with a look so tender it made the whole world blur. No chaos. No guilt. No Brooklyn. No mom. Just peace. The ceremony went off without a single hitch. Marcus's vows brought tears to my eyes. "Kimberly, you're not just the woman I love. You are the one who taught me that peace isn't found in quiet, it's found in courage. And today, I vow to stand beside you, always. Not just in joy, but in the storms too." Our guests applauded, some standing, some wiping away tears. And in that moment, I felt it, a sense of wholeness I had never known in my family. During the reception, Aunt Valerie found me by the dance floor and squeezed my hand. "You did what no one in this family had the courage to do for 20 years, she said. "You broke the cycle." I didn't need to ask what she meant. Because I knew. Brooklyn had always played the victim. My mom had always enabled it. And the rest of the family? They watched silently, too afraid to rock the boat. But I had capsized it. And instead of drowning, I found dry land. Later that evening, as Marcus and I sat side by side under the string lights with slices of lemon mousse cake in our hands, Amanda returned from speaking with venue security. "They tried again," she whispered. "Brooklyn and your mom called a rideshare, circled back pretending to be guests who left their phone." I chuckled dryly. "Seriously? Don't worry. Security escorted them off the premises. No shouting. No drama. They left with enough people watching to know exactly what happened." "Let them be a lesson," I said softly. "Some lines, once crossed, you can't uncross." By the end of the night, I stood barefoot on the grass, watching the stars flicker to life over the North Georgia hills. Marcus wrapped his arm around me. "You did it," he whispered. "No," I replied. "We did." Our honeymoon in Asheville the following week was quiet, reflective. We hiked trails wrapped in mist and ate warm soup by firelit corners. Not once did we speak of my mother. Or Brooklyn. They no longer lived in that space. But real peace only came when we got back home. Less than a week after we returned, my cousin Megan called. Her voice was buzzing with disbelief. "You are not going to believe what just happened." "What?" I asked. "Brooklyn and your mom had a massive fight. She moved back in after the wedding fiasco, right? But ever since, she's been moody, just lying around, complaining, stalking your socials through fake accounts." I raised an eyebrow. "So what changed?" "Brooklyn lost it. She told your mom it was her fault things went wrong. That she should have fought harder to keep her on the guest list. She said, and I quote, 'You let Kimberly win because you're weak.'" I blinked. "She turned on her?" "Hard. Your mom yelled back, said she'd sacrificed everything, covered for her for years, and now she's being blamed? She kicked Brooklyn out, called her an Uber and said, 'Go live however you want. Just don't come back.'" I let out a low breath. "Wow. Where is Brooklyn now?" Megan sighed. "Crashing at some friend's place. But you know her, she'll spin a new story soon. Find another audience." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That night, I went through my phone and deleted every message thread from my mom and Brooklyn. Then I opened my settings and blocked every number, every fake account they'd used to spy on my stories. As I clicked block on the final one, Marcus walked over and wrapped his arms around me from behind. He didn't ask anything. He didn't need to. I leaned into him and whispered, "I'm okay now." No grand gestures. No cinematic closure. Just 2 bowls of mushroom soup, soft jazz playing in the corner, and silence that finally felt safe. They had tried to pull me under for years. But I had chosen to float. And now, I was never going back. In the weeks that followed, our home became a refuge, sunlight in the morning, dinner by candlelight, and laughter that wasn't tinged with fear. For the first time in my life, my happiness didn't feel borrowed. It was mine. Fully, unapologetically, mine. But just because I found peace didn't mean the past disappeared. One afternoon, I got a call from the venue. I assumed it was a leftover invoice or a thank you. Instead, the manager's voice was quiet, hesitant. "Hi, Kimberly. I wanted to let you know something. We received a complaint form regarding your event." My heart dropped. A complaint? Yes. It was anonymous, but it listed a long string of grievances, claimed your wedding excluded family unfairly, that security was hostile, and that the bride publicly shamed her sister. There was no doubt in my mind. It was Brooklyn. Or my mother. Maybe both. The manager continued. We reviewed the event footage. There was no misconduct. In fact, your event was one of the smoothest we've hosted. I just thought you should know, in case you hear anything. I thanked him and hung up. It would have rattled me once. A few months ago, I would have cried, questioning if I had been too harsh. If I'd gone too far. But not now. Now, I just smiled. Brooklyn had tried to rewrite the story once again. But this time, too many people had seen the truth. That weekend, Marcus and I attended a small family brunch hosted by Aunt Valerie. It was just 10 people, relatives who had stood by me, who had seen everything unfold with clarity and grace. We laughed over scrambled eggs and shared stories that didn't revolve around guilt or blame. It was the kind of family gathering I'd dreamed of for years. And when the subject of Brooklyn finally came up, Aunt Valerie didn't hesitate. She always had someone to clean up her mess, she said, pouring more coffee. Your mother. Your grandmother. Even your teachers. But now? She's out of safety nets. And she's drowning in the consequences. I didn't gloat. But I didn't defend her either. Instead, I simply said, she's going to have to face herself eventually. Valerie nodded. Let's hope it's sooner rather than later. For her own sake. After brunch, Megan walked me to my car. There's one more thing I wanted to tell you, she said. Go ahead. Brooklyn tried to message Marcus again. Through a friend's account. My chest tightened. What? Nothing inappropriate. Just a sob story. Saying how he's the only person who ever treated her like a human being. That she misses the friendship. That she wishes things were different. She still can't help herself, I muttered. I didn't reply, Megan said quickly. But I saved it. Just in case you wanted to see. I don't, I replied. I already know what it says. The words are different. The game is the same. I drove home with the windows down and the music loud. For the first time, I felt clean of it all, not bitter, not vengeful. Just free. Brooklyn and my mother had spent years writing the same story, Kimberly the villain, Kimberly the golden child, Kimberly the heartless one. But their story didn't hold up anymore. Too many people had read between the lines. 2 weeks later, my mother sent a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A handwritten letter, delivered by post. It sat unopened on our counter for days. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. Marcus didn't say anything about it. He just glanced at it each morning like I did, waiting for me to decide. On the 5th day, I opened it. Dear Kimberly. I don't know where to start. I suppose you think I'm the villain now. I never wanted things to end like this. I only ever wanted to protect Brooklyn. She's fragile. Always has been. I didn't know how to handle both of you at once. You were always strong. You didn't need me in the same way. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe you did. And I failed to see it. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a response. I just want you to know that, regardless of everything, I do love you. Mom. I read it once. Then again. There were no apologies. No ownership. Just a carefully constructed half mea culpa designed to keep me from closing the door completely. I folded the letter. Placed it in a drawer. And didn't reply. Because I finally understood something: love, without accountability, is just manipulation in a nicer font. That spring, I launched a new consulting firm with Marcus. It had been in the works for over a year, something we'd dreamed of starting once we were married. We called it North Arc Strategies, a name chosen for the way our stories had bent, but not broken. At the launch party, surrounded by entrepreneurs, mentors, and old colleagues, someone pulled me aside and asked, "What made you take the leap?" I smiled. "Pain," I said. And the decision not to let it define me anymore. After that night, my life didn't suddenly become perfect. But it became mine. Truly, finally, mine. Brooklyn's saga continued: new posts, new pity parties, and new boyfriend within months. I stayed silent through it all. And when a cousin forwarded me her latest video, another emotional monologue about betrayal and loss, I didn't watch. I simply replied, "Please don't send me this kind of content anymore. I'm not a character in her story. I'm not watching the rerun." The real twist wasn't that Brooklyn spiraled. The real twist was that, for the first time, I didn't follow her down. Spring faded into summer, and with it, the last lingering pieces of the life I'd left behind. Our apartment was full of fresh air and soft light, the windows always cracked open, the walls echoing laughter and freedom instead of old fights and rehearsed guilt. I had spent so many years believing peace had to be earned through suffering, by staying silent, making room, avoiding conflict. But now, I was beginning to understand, peace isn't earned. It's built. One choice at a time. One boundary at a time. One no at a time. That realization was tested when, out of nowhere, I got an email from an old professor who now worked as a partner at a major firm in Atlanta. She had seen the press release about our company launch and wanted to connect. "We're looking for independent strategists," she wrote. "Your experience would be invaluable. And to be honest, I remember you. You always had that spark." I stared at the email, floored. All those years of playing second fiddle to Brooklyn, of being told to shrink so she could grow, and here I was, being sought out by people who didn't even know the story behind my strength. Marcus and I drove up for the meeting the next day. We walked into a polished high-rise, all steel and sunlight, and sat down with a boardroom full of executives. I watched their expressions shift as I spoke, saw their nods grow firmer with every strategy outline I presented. By the end of the pitch, the lead partner stood and offered her hand. "We'd like to retain you as a lead consultant on this project," she said. "And if it goes well, there's more where that came from." I looked at Marcus across the room. He gave a tiny nod. "I accept," I said. On the drive home, I couldn't stop smiling. I was no longer just the bride who had to fight for her own wedding. I was a woman who had taken the pain and turned it into a portfolio. But of course, life has a way of sending little reminders. We stopped for gas just outside Macon. While Marcus filled the tank, I ran into the store to grab drinks. At the register, I heard a voice behind me. "Kimberly?" I turned. Brooklyn. Her hair was darker now, tied in a messy bun. She looked thinner, tired in a way that sleep alone doesn't fix. Her smile was hesitant, rehearsed. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said, eyes scanning me like she was trying to measure how happy I looked. Yeah, I said, neutral. On our way back from a client meeting. Still running that company thing? Yes. She nodded. I saw the website. Looks legit. It is. An awkward pause. Then, listen, I've been meaning to reach out. I didn't say anything. I just think maybe things got out of hand, she continued, voice carefully casual. I wasn't in the right headspace. I made some bad calls. And I guess I felt abandoned. You weren't abandoned, I said quietly. You were asked to take accountability. And you refused. Her mouth tightened. So this is it then? You're done with me? I've already grieved that relationship, Brooklyn. I'm not angry anymore. But I'm also not going to pretend nothing happened. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but I saw it clearly this time, not the tears of remorse, but the tears of a woman who realized she no longer had power over the person in front of her. You've changed, she said bitterly. No, I said. I finally became who I always was. You just couldn't see her when she wasn't bending for you. I turned and walked out, sunlight spilling across the parking lot as I reached Marcus's car. He looked up from the driver's seat. You okay? I smiled. I really am. That evening, I got a text. Unknown number. I wish things were different. I hope you can forgive me one day. Brooklyn. I deleted it without reading it twice. Because healing doesn't always look like hugging it out. Sometimes, it looks like finally not needing an apology to move forward. Later that week, I met Aunt Valerie for lunch. She slid a small envelope across the table. What's this? I asked. It's a copy of your grandmother's will, she said. You probably didn't know this, but she updated it before she passed. Removed your mother as executor. Left something specifically for you. I opened it. A note in my grandmother's old, elegant handwriting. To Kimberly. I've seen more than I ever spoke. Your strength is something this family was too afraid to honor. This is a small token to say, I saw you. Love, Grandma. Attached was a check for $15,000 and a deed to a small cabin up in Blue Ridge. Apparently, Grandma had bought it decades ago but never told anyone. Tears welled in my eyes. For all the years I thought no one noticed, the quiet girl, the accommodating daughter, someone had. She saw. And she believed in me enough to leave me something untouched by guilt or control. I visited the cabin the next weekend. It was modest, stone steps, a wraparound porch, and the faint scent of pine inside. But it felt like sanctuary. We spent the weekend there, just Marcus and me, curled up on the old plaid sofa, drinking hot cocoa and listening to the fire crackle. This is what peace looks like, I whispered. And it truly was. It's been 9 months since the wedding. 9 months since I told my mother and Brooklyn they were no longer invited to the most important day of my life. 9 months since I chose myself fully, finally, without guilt. And here's what I've learned, the loudest silence is the one that follows your refusal to be mistreated any longer. For a while, I kept expecting the other shoe to drop. A voicemail, a sudden family emergency, a distant cousin trying to play peacemaker. But the silence held. Brooklyn moved in with another friend after the confrontation at the gas station. From what I've heard, she's still hopping job to job, relationship to relationship, blaming the world for every stumble. A new Instagram account, new pity posts, a new phase of curated chaos. My mother, well, she's gone quieter. Word reached me that she was telling people she and I were working on rebuilding our relationship. But that's a story she wrote without me. I haven't spoken to her since the letter. Because forgiveness, for me, is no longer about inviting people back in. It's about releasing myself from the grip they once had. And when I picture my life now, our home, our business, the cabin tucked in Blue Ridge, I don't see space for that old dysfunction. I see peace. I see Marcus. I see joy that doesn't come with a price tag. Last week, we hosted a small dinner at our apartment. Just a few close friends, Aunt Valerie, Megan, and some of the people who helped us start North Arc Strategies. Toward the end of the night, as we sat on the balcony wrapped in throw blankets and sipping wine, Megan turned to me. "You know," she said, "there was a time when I thought you'd never stand up for yourself." I laughed. "You and me both." "But you did," she said. "And I think it's made a lot of us reevaluate what we've been putting up with for too long." I looked around at the people I'd chosen. The ones who had chosen me. And I realized something. I didn't just survive that chapter of my life. I rewrote it. In the months that followed, the company grew faster than we expected. We brought on 2 more consultants, launched a mentorship program for young women breaking into the business world, and even got featured in a regional magazine as one to watch. None of that would have happened if I'd still been pouring my energy into appeasing people who only valued me when I was silent. Sometimes I wonder if Brooklyn ever reflects. If she ever stares at the ceiling late at night and realizes what she lost. Not just access to my wedding or my life, but the chance to grow alongside me, rather than against me. And my mom? Maybe she regrets it. Maybe not. But I've stopped needing to know. Because my worth doesn't depend on their recognition anymore. I used to think family was everything. That blood was sacred and irreplaceable. But now I know, family is who shows up. Family is who honors your boundaries. Family is who celebrates your joy without trying to steal it. The last time I visited Grandma's cabin, I stood out on the porch with a cup of tea, listening to the wind through the trees. And I whispered, "Thank you." Not just to her, but to myself. To the version of me who finally said, "Enough." To the woman who chose a clean slate over constant compromise. To the girl who walked away from the chaos and built her own quiet empire. I'm not naive. I know life will bring new battles. But now, I know how to fight with dignity, and how to walk away when the war isn't mine. I no longer ache for a seat at their table. Because I built my own. And everyone sitting there? They're there because they see me. Because they respect me. Because they choose me. And that is the real victory. Kimberly's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes, choosing yourself means disappointing the people who are used to you disappearing. But peace doesn't require permission, and family doesn't end where blood begins. It begins with respect, and it grows where boundaries are honored. If this story spoke to you, share it with someone who needs the strength to choose themselves. Don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Echoes for more stories where justice isn't just poetic, it's personal.